topic today is Overcoming Grumbling Part 2. Well, this old boy was a big hunter, and I don't know if he lived over in Alabama or South Carolina. I'm not sure where it was, but his dog died. Old Blue died. So he, for a long time, looked for another dog that was even close to Old Blue. So he found one. And he was really excited about this new dog. So he called a buddy and said, Jim, why don't you go with me? We're going to go out and shoot some birds. And I got my new dog with me. And so he picks him up, and they're in the car early in the morning. And Old Blue's in the back. They finally get out there where they're going to do their hunting. And man, all of a sudden, boom, those birds are flying, pop, 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 pop. So he cut that dog loose, and Old Blue took off. Woo! Man, he came back a few minutes later with those birds in his mouth. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. He got walking right on top of that water. I mean, he was walking right, whoo, so fast, whoo, right on top of it. So his buddy Jim didn't say a word about it. All day long, Old Blue went on top of that water, got those birds, brought them back. So they were in the truck on the way back home. And he said, man, you didn't say anything about my new dog, Old Blue. I mean, he was out there all day long, cutting out on top of that water, bringing those birds back. You didn't say a word. And then he said, well, he can't swim, can he? People are negative. People grumble. It's very hard to say positive, good things. In Philippians chapter number 2, the scripture tells us in 14 and 15, do everything without complaining or arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives of children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people. And so, if you want to know what we've already talked about in Overcoming Grumbling, if you'll go back to October 28, 2024, you can pick up on that lesson and get a review of it. I'm not going to review it again today. We grumble maybe because we're not humble. Humble enough to say, yeah, I grumble and I need a change. So a humble attitude, what does that look like? A lot of things. Let me just mention a couple. It doesn't expect perks. I like perks. I don't get a lot of perks, but I've had a few perks. I like perks. And I probably expect them sometime. But I want to get to the point where I don't expect perks. Understand also the humble attitude is all gifts are from God and are undeserved. I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve another breath. I don't deserve to be talking to you. I don't deserve anything. Everything is from the hand of God, from the generous hand of God. I remember a number of years ago, I was in Seoul, Korea, doing some training of leaders over there for the up-and-coming Olympics. And I remember a friend of mine said, you got to fly down about an hour outside of Seoul to a leprosarium where lepers were. And a friend of ours, Dr. David Seal, had started this hospital down there. And he said, you just won't believe it. So I got on a little plane, flew down, and I was back in the area where the hospital was. I had several people that worked there, several doctors that were guiding me around. And so I'll never forget. And if you don't know what a leper is, look it up and look at pictures. They lose sensitivity in their fingers. They can put their hand on a hot stove and not even know it's hot. They can lose limbs. I mean, it's not a pretty sight. So they toured me around. They said, we need to take you to one more place. So we went to the back side of the property and went in this little building. I bet that the room we were in was no more than maybe 15 by 15 by 15 by 15. It was about it. And all over there were mats in the room, and these little blind lepers were sitting there. Some had partial nose of their parts of their nose that had disappeared. Some had both of their ears gone, but they were blind. And the doctor asked me, he said, well, what is your favorite chapter in the Bible? Well, I just mentioned one. I said, how about Matthew chapter 7? These men, I don't know how many were there, 10, 12, 15 men, in unison, blind men, quoted perfectly to me the 7th chapter of Matthew. I'll never forget it. No one there was complaining. They weren't grumbling, but they were living a life of gratitude. The lepers. So I looked over some of the blessings that I've had over the years, and the person that took me, a buddy of mine that took me to a weekend retreat where I met Jesus, going into the 10th grade year of high school. I listed a whole group of names here: Sherry, Hadley, Mark, Phil, Bud, Bill, Jim, Carol, Dan, Steve, Larry, Richard, John, a crazy uncle that didn't know the Lord from anything, that had an idea that ended up getting me a scholarship to go to college, playing basketball and baseball. I mean, I could go on down this list. My family, my first wife, Ruth Ann, who went to be with the Lord a number of years ago. My second wonderful, amazing wife, Punky. My kids, my grandkids. It's embarrassing almost. But what I've learned is, and maybe you need to do the same thing, is to count your blessings. This is how that goes. When upon life's billows you are tempest-tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings. Name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done.